The alarm started beeping at 0300 hours, pulling Captain Sarah Chen from a deep sleep. She rolled out of her bunk and reached for her communicator before her eyes were fully open. Years of service had trained her body to wake up fast. Chen here. What's happening? Captain, we picked up a distress signal. It's coming from the Korvax expanse. The voice belonged to Lieutenant Marcus Webb, her night shift communications officer. He sounded worried. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. The Korvax expanse was bad news. Every pilot in the galaxy knew to avoid that region of space. The gravitational pulls were unpredictable, radiation levels were off the charts, and ion storms appeared without warning. She had heard stories of ships that went in and never came back out. Who sent the signal? She asked, already pulling on her uniform. A Valerian survey ship called the Gentle Dawn. They got caught in an ion storm. Their hull is breached, navigation is gone, and life support is failing. Captain, they're saying they have maybe 18 hours left. Sarah was moving through the corridor now, her boots making soft thuds against the metal floor. Other crew members were stirring, looking out of their quarters with sleepy, curious faces. The Quantum Harmony was a research vessel, not a rescue ship, but they were the only ones in range. Send me their coordinates. I'll be on the bridge in 2 minutes. When she arrived, the bridge lights were still dim for night operations. Webb was at his station, and the distress signal was playing on repeat through the speakers. The voice speaking was high-pitched and melodic, the way Valerian voices always sounded through the translator. This is Captain Zixtel of the survey ship Gentle Dawn. We are stranded in Sector 7 of the Korvax expanse. Our ship is damaged beyond our ability to repair. Life support will fail in approximately 18 hours. We do not request rescue. Repeat, we do not request rescue. The conditions here are too dangerous. Please inform our families that we face the end with dignity. Sarah listened to the message 3 times. She pulled up the navigation charts and studied the route to their location. The path would take them directly through the storm system that had destroyed the Valerian ship. The computer calculated the risk level as extremely high, with a survival probability of only 42%. Wake up the senior staff, Sarah said quietly. We need to talk about this. 20 minutes later, her key officers were gathered in the briefing room. They all looked tired, but alert. Medical Officer James Park brought coffee for everyone. It was thick and dark, the way humans liked it. Sarah knew that most alien species thought human coffee smelled like toxic chemicals. You all heard the message, Sarah began. A Valerian ship is dying out there. They have less than a day left. The Valerians are a good people, Park said. I met some at the medical conference on this Sil Prime last year. They're peaceful, curious, gentle. They don't deserve to die alone out there. The route is suicide, said Lieutenant Maria Torres, their chief engineer. She had pulled up the same charts Sarah had studied. Look at these radiation readings. Look at the gravitational shear. The Valerians got torn apart out there, and their ships are tougher than ours in some ways. Are they? Sarah asked. Torres paused. She tilted her head, thinking, No, they're not. Their ships are built for precision and efficiency. Ours is built like a tank. We over-engineer everything because we come from a world that tried to kill us every day. Exactly, Sarah said. The Valerians couldn't survive those conditions. But we're not Valerians. First Officer David Coomer leaned forward. Captain, I know what you're thinking, but even for us, this is dangerous. We could die trying to save them. We could, Sarah agreed. That's why I'm not ordering anyone to come. This is volunteer only. If we do this, we do it because we choose to. There was silence in the room. Sarah watched her crew think it over. These were good people, all of them. They had signed up for exploration and research, not rescue missions and death traps. Park spoke first. I'm in. I didn't become a doctor to let people die when I could help them. I'll keep the ship running, Torres said. Someone has to make sure we can get back out. One by one, every officer in the room volunteered. Sarah felt a surge of pride. This was why she loved her crew. All right then, she said. Torres, I want every safety system we have online. Double-check the radiation shielding and make sure the hull integrity fields are at maximum. Park, Prepare the medical bay for Valerian physiology. They breathe a different mix than we do, and they need lower gravity. Kumar, plot the fastest course. I don't care if it's rough. Time matters more than comfort right now. The quantum harmony came alive with activity. In the engine room, Torres and her team ran diagnostics on every system. They loaded extra coolant, boosted the shield generators, and prepared emergency patches for hull breaches. In Medical Park was reading everything he could find about Valerian biology. They were silicon-based life forms, delicate and light, adapted to a world with low gravity and gentle weather. On the bridge, Sarah watched the storm system on her screens. It was massive, a swirling chaos of energy and debris. The colors were beautiful in a terrible way, blues and purples and brilliant whites. It was the kind of thing you could admire from a safe distance. They would be going right into the middle of it. Captain Webb said, "Should we send a message back to the Valerians? Let them know we're coming." Sarah thought about it. No, they specifically said not to attempt rescue. If we tell them we're coming, they'll try to talk us out of it. They'll feel guilty. Let's just show up. They're going to be surprised, Kumar said with a small smile. That's an understatement, Torres added from her station. When they see a human ship coming through that storm, they're going to think we're either insane or already dead. Maybe both, Park said. The quantum harmony broke orbit and turned toward the Korvax expanse. Sarah ordered the crew to suit up and strap in. What they were about to do would be rough even by human standards. The acceleration alone would be uncomfortable. The radiation exposure would require treatment later. The gravitational forces might cause bruising or worse, but they were going anyway. As they approached the edge of the storm system, Sarah opened a ship-wide channel. "This is the captain. In a few minutes, we're going to experience some heavy turbulence. Stay strapped in and hold on. Remember why we're doing this? 18 people are going to die if we don't reach them. That's 18 families who will get their loved ones back. That's worth a little discomfort." The ship crossed into the storm. Immediately, everything started shaking. The lights flickered. Alarms began beeping as radiation levels climbed. Sarah gripped her chair and watched the screens. The whole temperature was rising. The shields were holding, but they were taking a beating. "Gravity wave incoming," Kumar called out. "Brace." The ship lurched sideways. Sarah felt her stomach drop as they were pulled in 3 different directions at once. She heard something crack in the walls, heard Torres cursing over the cum system as she rerouted power to compensate. They pushed deeper into the storm. Every sensor was screaming warnings. The computer kept suggesting they turn back. Sarah ignored it all. Somewhere ahead in all that chaos was a dying ship full of people who, in help, and humans didn't leave people behind. Captain Zixtel stood on the bridge of the Gentle Dawn and accepted that death was coming. The acceptance brought a strange peace. The crew had gathered in the central chamber where the air was still breathable. They had said their prayers and recorded messages for their families. Now they simply waited together. The ship was dying around them. The hull breach in Section 4 had spread to Section 5. Every hour, they lost a little more atmosphere. The temperature was dropping as the heating systems failed one by one. Zixtel's delicate, crystalline skin was already showing stress fractures from the cold. Then the sensors started beeping. "Captain," said Navigator Sileneth, his voice shaking, "there's a ship approaching. A large one." Zixtel moved to the sensor station as quickly as the failing gravity allowed. The Valerians were built for grace and precision, not speed. Every movement had to be calculated and careful. She looked at the display and felt her respiratory system flutter in confusion. "That's impossible," she whispered. "Nothing can move through that storm. Our sensors must be damaged." "I ran diagnostics twice," Sileneth said. "The readings are accurate. A ship is coming toward us at high speed. Very high speed." The crew gathered around the viewports. In the swirling chaos of the storm, they could see lights. A ship was cutting through the energy waves like they were nothing. It was dark and angular, built with harsh lines and heavy plating. It looked more like a weapon than a vessel. "They're hailing us," said Communications Officer Vrental. "Answer them," Zixtel said. Though her voice was barely a whisper, the view screen flickered to life. A human face appeared. The creature was broad and solid, with short, dark fur on its head and small, forward-facing eyes. Eyes that marked it as a predator. Zixel had seen humans before in the diplomatic videos, but seeing one live was different. The human's face moved in ways that seemed aggressive, showing its teeth. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Quantum Harmony," the human said. The translator made her voice sound harsh and loud. "We received your distress signal. We're here to help. Prepare for boarding." "Wait," Zixel said quickly. "You cannot board. The conditions are too dangerous. The radiation levels, the temperature variance, you will die." The human's face did that teeth-showing thing again. Zixel later learned it was called a smile, a sign of friendliness. In that moment, it looked like a predator baring its fangs. "We'll be fine," the human said. "Just hold on. We're coming to get you." The communication ended. The Valerian crew watched in horror as the human ship moved alongside the gentle dawn. Through the viewports, they could see figures in bulky suits, mag-locking onto their hull. The suits were thick and armored, making the humans look even larger and more threatening. "They're cutting through the hull," Silenith said, his voice high with panic. "If they breach Section 3, we'll lose our remaining air supply. The temperature differential will cause explosive decompression. We have to stop them." "I don't think we can stop them," Zixel said quietly. The sound of cutting tools echoed through the ship. The Valerians could only watch as the humans worked with terrifying efficiency. They moved with purpose and speed, their heavy boots clanging against the delicate crystalline floors. Each footstep created small cracks in the carefully grown surfaces that had taken years to cultivate. The breach came suddenly. A section of wall simply fell inward, and through the gap came the humans. There were 6 of them, all in those armored suits. They were huge, at least twice the size of any Valerian. The lead human was scanning the area with some kind of device. When it turned its helmeted head toward the nearest Valerian, the crew member collapsed in terror. "Easy," a voice said from the human suit speaker. The translator struggled with the tone, making it sound aggressive. "We're here to help. Nobody's going to hurt you." But the Valerians were too frightened to process the words. These were Deathworlders, creatures from Earth. Planet so violent that most species couldn't believe life had survived there at all. Earth had extreme temperatures, crushing gravity, dangerous weather, and predators at every level of the food chain. The humans who evolved there were built to survive constant threats. One of the humans approached the collapsed Valerian. It extended a gloved hand. The Valerian fainted immediately. "Park, they're terrified," said the lead human. It was the captain from the view screen. "Try to move slower." The human called Park knelt down carefully. "I'm a doctor. I'm here to help you. Can you understand me?" The Valerian's eyes were wide with fear. Park pulled out a medical scanner and ran it over the small creature. To the Valerian, the device looked like a weapon. The readings made Park frown behind his helmet. "Captain, they're in bad shape. Radiation exposure, hypothermia, oxygen deprivation. We need to move them now," agreed Captain Chen said. She turned to address all the Valerians who were watching from the central chamber. "My name is Sarah Chen. We're from the human ship Quantum Harmony. Your ship is dying. We're going to take you to safety. Please cooperate with my crew." Zixel forced herself to move forward. As captain, she had to be brave, even when every instinct screamed to hide. "Captain Chen, we are grateful for your assistance. But you must understand, the conditions you're working in are lethal. The radiation alone should have killed you by now." Chen looked at her instruments. "Oh, this. Yeah, it's pretty hot. We'll need some treatment when we get back to the ship, but we have time. Don't worry about us. Worry about your crew. Don't worry about us." The human said it so casually, as if working in lethal radiation was a minor inconvenience. Zixel felt her fear deepen. What kind of creatures were these? Another human, marked with engineering symbols on its suit, was setting up some kind of bridge between the two ships. "Captain, establishing temporary life support corridor? It's not pretty, but it'll hold long enough to get everyone across." "Good work, Torres," Chen said. Zixel watched as the human engineer worked in conditions that would kill a Valerian in seconds. At one point, a seal failed, and the human was briefly exposed to hard vacuum. The engineer simply grabbed a tether, reattached the seal, and continued working, as if nearly dying was normal. "All right, people," Chen said to her crew. "Let's get our guests to safety." Gentle hands. They're fragile. The humans began helping the Valerians toward the makeshift corridor. Park was carrying 3 Valerians at once, supporting their weight easily in the low gravity. To be held by the human was terrifying. Zixthal could feel the raw strength in his grip, the power barely restrained. His heartbeat was loud and fast, like war drums. His breathing was deep and forceful. "You're doing great," Park said softly, trying to sound soothing. "Just a little further. We'll have you safe soon." But through the translator, his words sounded harsh. And his movements, though careful by human standards, seemed aggressive and forceful to the delicate Valerians. Silaneth suddenly went into cardiac distress. The stress and fear were too much for his system. He collapsed in Park's arms, his breathing becoming shallow and irregular. "Medical emergency," Park called out. He laid Silaneth down and pulled out his medical kit. The other Valerians watched in horror as the human began working on their companion with instruments that looked too large and rough. Park's hands moved with practiced skill, but to the Valerians, it looked violent. He was injecting chemicals using devices that sent energy pulses through Silaneth's body, working with an intensity that seemed brutal. "It's killing him," one of the Valerians whispered, but Silaneth's breathing steadied. His color improved. Park sat back and nodded with satisfaction. "That was close. He's stable now, but we need to get him to my medical bay immediately." Zixthal realized with shock that the human had saved Silaneth's life. The aggressive medical intervention, the rough handling, the intensity had all been necessary. Park had known exactly what he was doing. Chen's voice came over the CUM system. "We have 10 minutes before another radiation storm hits. Everyone needs to be on the quantum harmony in 8 minutes. Move, people. 10 minutes." The humans were timing their rescue around disasters that would wipe out most civilized species. They were using the lethal environment tactically, working within windows that would be considered impossible by any reasonable standard. The Valerians were hurried across the corridor into the human ship. As Zixel crossed over, she looked back at the gentle dawn one last time. Her family's ship, 3 generations of exploration and discovery, is being left behind to die in the storm. A human hand touched her shoulder gently. It was Chen. "I'm sorry. We can't save the ship. But we saved you. That's what matters." Zixthal looked up at the human captain and saw something unexpected in those predator eyes. Kindness, compassion, these creatures might be terrifying, but they had risked their lives to save strangers. "Thank you," Zixthal whispered. Chen nodded. "That's what we do." The cargo bay of the Quantum Harmony was not designed for Valerian comfort. Captain Zixthal stood in the temporary shelter that the humans had constructed and tried not to show her distress. Around her, the 18 members of her crew huddled together, their delicate bodies trembling. Everything about the human ship was wrong. The gravity was too strong, pressing down on their fragile frames with crushing weight. Each Valerian had been given an assisted mobility frame, a mechanical support system that helped them move. But even with the frames, they felt heavy and slow. The temperature was warm enough to cause discomfort, making their crystalline skin formations ache. The lights were too bright, forcing them to adjust their visual receptors constantly. And the noise was overwhelming. Humans were loud. Their ship hummed and clanked and groaned with mechanical sounds. Their voices carried through the corridors, deep and booming. Their footsteps were like thunder. Even their breathing was loud and forceful, a constant reminder of how much oxygen these creatures consumed. Zixthal watched through the observation window as the Quantum Harmony pulled away from the gentle dawn. The human ship accelerated at a rate that made every Valerian feel sick. The forces involved should have torn a vessel apart, but the humans had built their ship to handle punishment that would destroy most others. "Captain, look," whispered Navigator Silaneth, pointing at the window with a shaking hand. The gentle dawn was caught in a gravitational wave. The beautiful ship, grown and shaped over decades by Valerian craftsmen, began to tear apart. The whole section separated, the crystalline structures shattered, and the whole vessel broke into pieces that scattered across the storm. Several Valerians made sounds of grief. That ship had been their home, their workplace, their pride. 3 generations of Silenus family had served on the Gentle Dawn. Now it was gone. Reduced to debris in seconds, Captain Chen appeared in the cargo bay doorway. She had removed her helmet, but still wore the lower part of her suit. She looked tired, her face showing lines of stress and fatigue. When she saw the Valerians watching their ship's destruction, her expression changed to something softer. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I know that ship meant a lot to you, but we couldn't save both. I chose you." Zixthel turned away from the window. "You made the right choice, Captain Chen. Things can be rebuilt. Lives cannot be restored."
Come on,
Chen said. "Let me show you where you'll be staying until we reach a safe port." We've done our best to make it comfortable. The humans had converted a section of the cargo bay into living quarters. They had lowered the gravity as much as the ship's systems allowed, adjusted the atmosphere to the Valerian mixture, and dimmed the lights. Sleeping platforms had been constructed, along with a small food preparation area and a waste facility, but comfortable by human standards was still harsh for Valerians. The reduced gravity was still twice what they were used to. The dimmed lights were still too bright. The atmosphere mixture was close but not exact, leaving a slight burning sensation in their respiratory systems. "I know it's not perfect," Chen said, watching their reactions carefully. "But it's the best we can do with what we have. You'll be safe here." Medical Officer Park entered carrying containers of supplies. He moved with casual confidence, unbothered by the cargo that would have been too heavy for any Valerian to lift. He set the containers down with a thud that made everyone jump. "Sorry," he said, noticing their reaction. "I brought some food and medical supplies. I've been studying Valerian nutrition requirements. I think I can prepare something you can eat." He opened one of the containers and began pulling out items. The Valerians watched nervously as he worked. Park's movements were quick and efficient, but they seemed aggressive and forceful. When he used a knife to cut vegetables, the Valerians flinched at each sharp motion. "Here," Park said, offering a bowl to Zixthel. "Try this. It's a nutrient paste with the mineral content your species needs. I added some of the flavor compounds that your database says Valerians enjoy." Zixthel accepted the bowl carefully, trying not to touch the human's hands. She tasted the paste. It was strange and the texture was wrong, but it was edible. More importantly, it was kind. This human had spent time trying to make food that would nourish and please them. "It is acceptable," she said. "Thank you, Dr. Park." Park smiled, that tooth-showing expression that the Valerians were learning meant friendliness, not aggression. "Just Park is fine. We're not formal on this ship. Call me James if you want." The idea of such casual familiarity with a Deathworlder was strange. But Zixthel nodded politely. Lieutenant Torres appeared next, still in her engineering suit. She looked exhausted, her face streaked with what appeared to be oil or coolant. "Captain, I need to talk to you about the radiation exposure." Chen's expression became serious. "How bad?" "We all got hit pretty hard. Nothing immediately dangerous, but we'll need treatment within the next 12 hours. Especially you and me. We were outside the shields the longest, right? Start the treatment protocols. Make sure everyone gets checked." Torres nodded and left. The casual way the humans discussed radiation poisoning shocked the Valerians. These creatures had willingly exposed themselves to lethal radiation to rescue strangers. And now they spoke about the consequences as if it were a routine workplace injury. First, Kamar arrived with more supplies. When he entered, he accidentally bumped his shoulder against the doorframe. The impact would have broken bones for most species. Kumar simply rubbed his shoulder and continued as if nothing had happened. "Got your personal items from the Gentle Dawn," he said, setting down several containers. "We did a quick sweep before we had to abandon her. Grabbed what we could." 8 Valerians rushed to the containers, relieved to see familiar items. Photographs, data pads, personal mementos. Small things that meant home. Kumar had risked his life going back into a dying ship to save their belongings. "You went back?" Zixthel asked. The ship was already unstable. You could have died, Kumar shrugged, another human gesture the Valerians were learning. Yeah, but I was already suited up. Figured it was worth the risk. I know what it's like to lose everything. At least you have some pieces of home now. Over the next few hours, the humans tried to make their guests comfortable. They brought blankets when the Valerians complained of cold. They adjusted the lighting again and again until it was tolerable. They set up privacy screens so the Valerians wouldn't feel so exposed, but cultural misunderstandings kept happening. At one point, Torres playfully punched Park's shoulder while they were talking. To the humans, it was a friendly gesture, a sign of camaraderie. To the Valerians watching, it looked like sudden violence. Several crew members gasped, expecting a fight to break out. Instead, Park laughed and pushed Torres back gently. And the two humans continued their conversation as if nothing had happened. They hit each other for fun, Siloneth whispered to Zixtel. What kind of species does that? Chen tried to tell stories to help pass the time. She spoke about Earth, describing her home with obvious love and pride. But to the Valerians, her stories sounded like descriptions of a nightmare world. My hometown gets to 40 degrees Celsius in summer, she said warmly. We'd go swimming in the lake to cool off. And in winter, it drops to -20. We'd have snowball fights and go ice skating. The Valerians listened in horror. Temperature swings of 60 degrees. That would kill most species. But humans lived there and called it pleasant. What about predators? Asked Rental, the communications officer. Oh, sure, Chen said casually. Depending on where you live on Earth, you might have bears. Wolves, big cats, sharks, crocodiles, venomous snakes, poisonous spiders. You learn to be careful. Most of them leave you alone if you don't bother them. Most of them leave you alone. The humans lived on a world where deadly predators were common. They just accepted it as normal. That night, Zixtel couldn't sleep. She used the ship's database to research humanity and Earth. What she found terrified her. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world, one of the most hostile planets known to harbor complex life. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was corrosive, filled with oxygen that was toxic to many species in high concentrations. The weather included hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. The temperature varied wildly. The planet had experienced multiple mass extinction events, and somehow humanity had not only survived, but thrived. The database showed human biology in detail. They had redundant organs, backup systems for critical functions. Their bones were dense and strong to handle the high gravity. Their immune systems could fight off diseases that would kill most species. Their skin could heal from injuries that would be permanently damaging to others. They were persistence hunters, capable of chasing prey for hours or even days until the target collapsed from exhaustion. They were, in every measurable way, apex predators from a nightmare world. Zixel looked around at her crew. Sleeping fitfully in the harsh environment of the cargo bay, they were trapped on a ship full of creatures who considered mortal danger to be merely risky. Creatures who helped others by dragging them through lethal conditions. Creatures whose idea of being gentle could still break a Valerian's bones, and yet those same creatures had risked their lives to save strangers. They had exposed themselves to radiation, worked in vacuum, and charged into a storm that should have killed them. All to help people they had never met. Zixtal didn't know whether to be more frightened or grateful. Perhaps she could be both. The journey to Thessil Prime took 6 days. For the Valerians, it was the longest and strangest 6 days of their lives. They were living in close proximity to humans, and every day brought new moments of fear and fascination. On the second day, Zixtal shared what she had learned about Earth and humanity with her crew. They gathered in the cargo bay while the ship hummed around them, listening as their captain explained the truth about their rescuers. A Class 12 death world, repeated Siloneth, his voice trembling. The classification system only goes to Class 15. That means Earth is one of the most dangerous planets in the known galaxy. How did they even survive long enough to develop civilization? Asked Vrental. Zixtal pulled up images on her datapad. According to the records, Humans almost didn't survive. Their planet has experienced 5 major mass extinction events. Each time, most life was wiped out. But something always survived and evolved and tried again. Humans are the result of billions of years of evolution in the harshest conditions imaginable. The images showed Earth from space. It looked beautiful, blue and green and white. But the data alongside the images told a different story. Extreme weather patterns, massive temperature variations, tectonic activity, high radiation from their sun, an atmosphere that would poison many species. They evolved to handle all of that, Zixtel continued. Their bodies are built for survival. Strong bones, powerful muscles, redundant organs, aggressive immune systems. They heal quickly from injuries. They can survive in conditions that would kill us in minutes. And they use those abilities to help others, said Sillineth quietly. They came into that storm knowing it could kill them. They accepted radiation poisoning as a necessary cost. They risked their lives for strangers. The Valerians sat in silence, processing this information. They were interrupted by Park entering the cargo bay with his medical scanner. "Morning checkup time," he announced cheerfully. "How's everyone feeling today?" The Valerians submitted to his examinations, though they still flinched when he came too close. Park moved from person to person with practiced efficiency, checking vital signs and asking questions about their comfort and health. When he reached Sillineth, Park spent extra time with his scanner. "Your cardiovascular system is still showing stress. I'm going to adjust your medication. You need to rest more and try to eat. I know the food isn't great, but you need the nutrients." "I will try," Sillineth said softly. Then, gathering courage, he asked, "Dr. Park, may I ask you a question?" "Of course. And please, just call me James. Why did you save us? Your species could have ignored our distress signal. You had no obligation to risk your lives for strangers." Park sat down on a supply crate, making himself lower so he wouldn't tower over the Valerian. His expression became thoughtful. "That's a good question. I guess because we could help, and so we should help. Where I come from, there's an old saying, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? We were the only ship in range. You needed help. It was that simple. You were hurt. You told Captain Chen you all received radiation poisoning? Yeah, but we're recovering fine. We have treatments for that. In a few days, we'll be back to normal. Some hair loss, maybe some nausea, but nothing permanent. It was worth it to save 18 lives." Sillineth looked at this human with his strange flat face and small predator eyes and saw something he hadn't expected. Genuine care. Park truly believed that exposing himself to radiation was a reasonable price to pay for helping others. "Your species is very brave," Sillineth said. Park smiled. "Or very stupid. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference." The humans tried to include the Valerians in daily life on the ship. Chen invited Zixel to the bridge to observe their operations. Torres gave tours of the engineering sections, though the Valerians had to wear protective gear because the machinery was so loud and the temperatures so extreme. Kumar taught some of the younger Valerians how to play a human card game called poker, but the cultural differences kept causing problems. During one meal, Chen offered the Valerians some human food to try. It was called pizza, and the humans clearly loved it. But to the Valerians, the smell was overwhelming and unpleasant. The temperature was dangerously hot, and the combination of ingredients made no sense. "Just try a small piece," Chen encouraged. "The cheese might be okay for you. It's mostly proteins and fats." Zixtel tried to be polite. She took a tiny bite. The heat burned her mouth. The texture was strange, and the taste was foreign. She forced herself to swallow. "It is very interesting. Thank you for sharing." "Ah!" Chen laughed. "That's a diplomatic way of saying it's awful. I appreciate the effort, though." The humans shared other aspects of their culture. They played music, which the Valerians found too loud and aggressive. Even the pieces the humans called calm and soothing. They watched human entertainment videos, which seemed to focus heavily on conflict and violence. Even the romantic comedies had characters pushing each other and engaging in what looked like ritualized combat. Is your entire culture based on fighting? Rental asked one evening. Kumar, who was watching a historical drama with them, paused the video. I guess it does look like that from the outside. But you have to understand, conflict is a big part of human storytelling because it's a big part of our history. We're a competitive species. We compete with nature, with predators, with each other. But we also cooperate, love, create, and help each other. The fighting is just more dramatic, so it gets more screen time. But even your sports are violent, Silaneth pointed out. That game you showed us, rugby? They crash into each other repeatedly. Yeah, rugby is pretty rough, Kumar admitted. But we also have gentle sports. Chess, archery, swimming. Humans have a wide range of interests, though even our gentle sports would probably seem aggressive to you, Torres added. She was working on a repair nearby, her hands moving quickly with tools that looked dangerously sharp. We're just built different. What feels normal to us probably seems extreme to most other species. On the fourth day, disaster struck in an unexpected way. One of the young Valerians, a researcher named Plixtel, accidentally wandered into a restricted section of the ship. The gravity there was set to Earth normal, and Plixtel collapsed immediately under the crushing weight. The alarm brought humans running. Park arrived first and found Plixtel struggling to breathe, unable to move under the intense gravitational pull. Park didn't hesitate. He ran into the high-gravity zone, scooped up the Valerian, and carried them back to safety. The whole rescue took less than 30 seconds, but Park was breathing hard afterward. Even for a human, moving quickly in Earth's gravity while carrying another person was exhausting. But he had done it without thinking, acting on pure instinct to help someone in danger. Plixtel recovered quickly once back in the lower gravity zone, but the incident shook the Valerians. They realized that the humans were living in a reduced gravity environment for the sake of their guests. The entire ship could operate at Earth normal, which would be more comfortable for the crew. But they had lowered it to make the Valerians less uncomfortable. You changed your whole ship for us, Sixthiel said to Chen later. You're living in reduced gravity, dealing with atmospheric mixtures that aren't ideal for you, adjusting your routines, all to make us more comfortable. Chen nodded. Of course, you're our guests. We want you to be as comfortable as possible, but you're suffering for it. I've noticed your crew moving more slowly, looking tired. The reduced gravity is affecting you. It's not suffering, Chen said firmly. It's a minor inconvenience. We'll readjust when we drop you off. You, on the other hand, would die in our normal environment, so we adapt. That's what intelligent beings do. Zixel realized something important in that moment. Yes, humans were terrifying. They were strong and resilient and capable of surviving things that would kill most species. But they were also deeply compassionate. They used their strength to protect the weak, not exploit them. They endured discomfort to help others feel safe. On the fifth day, the Sil Prime appeared on the view screens. The Valerian homeworld was beautiful, a gentle planet with low gravity, stable weather, and peaceful landscapes. When the Valerians saw it, many of them began to cry with relief. Almost home, Chen said quietly, standing beside Zixtel on the observation deck. I bet you can't wait to get off this ship. Your ship saved our lives, Captain. I will always be grateful for that. But yes, I admit I am eager to feel proper gravity again, and breathe clean air, and see the sky. I understand. We'll have you home soon. Becoming first surprised, then concerned. What is it? Zixel asked. Your government wants to quarantine us? They're grateful we saved you, but they're afraid of us. They want us to stay in orbit while you're transported down by shuttle? They don't want humans landing on this Sil Prime. Zixel felt shame wash over her. Her people were so afraid of their rescuers that they wouldn't even let them visit the planet. I am sorry, Captain Chen. My people are not being gracious hosts. It's okay, Chen said, though Zixel could see the hurt in her eyes. We understand. We're scary to most species. It's not personal, but it felt personal. These humans had risked everything to save Valerian lives. Now they were being treated like a threat. Zixel made a decision. Captain Chen, when we land, I am going to tell my people the truth about what happened. about how brave you were, how kind you've been, how much you've sacrificed for strangers. They need to know. Chen smiled softly. I appreciate that. But honestly, we didn't do it for recognition. We did it because it was right, Zixtel thought. Was perhaps the most human thing she could have said. The shuttle that came to collect the of Valerians was pristine and beautiful, designed with the flowing organic lines that Valerian culture favored. It looked fragile compared to the harsh angles of the quantum harmony. But to the rescued crew, it looked like home. Captain Chen helped them prepare to leave. She had organized their recovered belongings, made sure each Valerian had copies of their medical records, and even prepared small packages of the nutrient paste that Park had developed, so they would have familiar food during the transition back to normal life. I wish we could give you a better goodbye, Zixiel said, as they stood in the docking bay. You saved our lives, and my government treats you like a threat. It's complicated, Chen said. We understand. Different species have different comfort levels. We don't take it personally, but Zixel could see in Chun's eyes that it did hurt. The human captain had spent 6 days caring for strangers, adjusting her ship, sacrificing her crew's comfort, and now she was being kept at a distance like something dangerous. Silenith approached Dr. Park one last time. The young Valerian had recovered fully from his cardiac episode, thanks to Park's quick intervention. I wanted to thank you properly. You saved my life twice, once in the rescue and once when my heart failed. I was terrified of you at first. I thought you were killing me, but you were healing me. I am sorry I doubted you. Park knelt down to be at eye level with Silenith. You don't need to apologize. What happened to you was traumatic. Being rescued by strangers who look and act so different from you, in the middle of a disaster, that's terrifying. I'm just glad you're okay now. Take care of yourself. Silenith did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He reached out and gently touched Park's hand. For a Valerian, physical contact with outsiders was significant. It was a gesture of deep trust and gratitude. Park's eyes widened, and then he smiled warmly. Thank you, he said quietly. One by one, the Valerians boarded the shuttle. They looked back at the human crew who had saved them. Etch! These terrifying Deathworlders, who had shown them such unexpected kindness. Torres waved. Kumar gave a thumbs up, a human gesture the Valerians had learned meant approval. Park smiled his gentle smile. Chen stood at attention, giving a formal salute. Safe travels, Captain Zixtel. May your paths be peaceful. The shuttle detached and began its descent to the Sil Prime. The Valerians pressed against the viewports, watching the quantum harmony grow smaller in the distance. That dark angular ship had been a prison and a sanctuary, a place of fear and safety all at once. When they landed, the reception was overwhelming. Families rushed forward, embracing their loved ones. News crews swarmed with cameras and questions. Government officials waited with formal greetings. The whole thing was chaos in the gentle, organized way that Valerians did chaos. But Zixtel noticed something troubling. When reporters asked about the rescue, the official government representatives were downplaying the human involvement. They spoke about a fortunate encounter with a passing vessel and standard rescue protocols. They made it sound routine, unremarkable. That evening, there was a formal ceremony to welcome the survivors home. The Grand Hall was filled with thousands of Valerians, all waiting to hear the story. Government officials gave speeches about the tragedy of the Gentle Dawn, the joy of the crew's safe return. When Zixel was called to speak, she walked to the podium with determination. She looked out at the sea of familiar faces, her people, her culture, her home. And then she told them the truth. We were dead, she began simply. The Gentle Dawn was destroyed. We had 18 hours of air left and no hope of rescue. The conditions in the Korvax expanse are lethal to our species. No Valerian ship could have reached us. We accepted our fate. The hall was silent, listening. Then the humans came. They flew through conditions that should have killed them. They exposed themselves to radiation levels that caused them physical harm. They worked in temperature extremes and gravitational forces that would have torn our bodies apart. They cut through our hull, boarded our dying ship, and carried us to safety. Thiel paused, letting that sink in. I know humans frighten us. They are loud and aggressive and strong. They come from a death world that seems like something from a nightmare. Everything about them is intense and extreme. But I want you to understand something important. Those same qualities that terrify us are what made our rescue possible. She pulled up images on the display screen behind her, the quantum harmony pushing through the storm. The humans in their armored suits boarding the gentle dawn, Park working to save Silanath's life. Chen standing on the bridge, determined and focused. They are strong because their world demanded strength. They are resilient because their planet killed the weak. They are brave because they evolved in constant danger. And they chose to use all of those frightening qualities to save strangers. They didn't have to help us. They gained nothing from it. They were hurt by it. They did it anyway. Thiel's voice grew stronger. For 6 days, we lived on their ship. They lowered their gravity for us, adjusted their atmosphere, dimmed their lights. They endured discomfort so we would feel safer. They shared their food, their medicine, their space. They treated us with kindness and respect even though we were clearly terrified of them. She looked directly at the government officials in the front row. And how did we repay them? By refusing to let them land on our world. By treating them like a threat, by minimizing their sacrifice in our official statements. We should be ashamed. The hall erupted in murmurs and discussion. Zixtel raised her voice over the noise. I propose that we formally recognize the crew of the Quantum Harmony for their heroism. I propose we invite them to land, to visit our world, to be honored as the heroes they are. And I propose that we nominate humanity for membership in the Galactic Emergency Response Council. The last statement caused gasps throughout the hall. The Galactic Emergency Response Council was an elite group of species capable of conducting rescues in extreme conditions. Membership was prestigious and rare. Humans are terrifying, Zixtel said firmly. I will not pretend otherwise. They are strong and aggressive and capable of enduring conditions that would kill most of us. But that is exactly why they should be on the council. When disasters happen in places where normal species cannot survive, we need someone who can go there. We need the Deathworlders. In orbit above this Sil Prime, Captain Chen received a communication from the planet's government. She listened with growing surprise as they formally invited the Quantum Harmony crew to land and offered an official ceremony of recognition, Torres said from her engineering station. That's unexpected. Zixtel must have said something, Kumar added. I told you she was a good captain. Chen smiled. Should we accept? Hell yes, Park said immediately. I want to see their medical facilities, and try real Valerian food, and meet Silanath's family, Torres. Chen asked. I'm curious about their ship construction techniques. Could learn something useful. Plus, it would be nice to be appreciated instead of feared for once. Chen made the decision. All right, prepare for landing. And everyone, please try to be on your best behavior. Walk slowly, speak softly, and for the love of all that's holy, no friendly punching. The Quantum Harmony descended to the Sil Prime's surface, marking the first time a human vessel had landed on the Valerian homeworld. When the crew emerged, they found themselves facing a crowd of thousands. The Valerians had erected transparent barriers, ostensibly for safety. But Chen understood it was to make the locals feel more comfortable. The ceremony was elaborate and beautiful. Valerian officials presented the human crew with honors and gifts. Families of the rescued crew members came forward to express their gratitude, though most were too nervous to approach closely. When it was Chen's turn to speak, she kept her remarks short and simple. We did what anyone should do when they find someone in trouble. We helped. That's not heroism, that's just being a decent person. Or in our case, a decent human. We're honored by your recognition, but the real honor was meeting your people and earning their trust. Then Silanath stepped forward, surprising everyone. He walked right up to the barrier where Park stood and gestured for it to be lowered. The officials hesitated, but Zixthal nodded her approval. The barrier came down. Silenith approached Park directly, no barrier between them. The crowd gasped. A young Valerian, voluntarily approaching a human with no protection. "You saved my life," Silenith said clearly. "You frightened me. Your treatment was harsh and painful, but it was also necessary and skilled and compassionate. I was wrong to fear you. Thank you, Dr. James Park, for your courage and your kindness." Park looked like he might cry. He knelt down and very, very gently shook Silenith's hand. "You're welcome. It was an honor to help you." The image of that moment, a human and a Valerian in friendly contact, was broadcast across the galactic network. It became famous. A symbol of how different species could overcome fear and find common ground. The official announcement came 2 weeks later. Humanity had been accepted into the Galactic Emergency Response Council. When disaster struck in extreme environments and rescues needed to be conducted in lethal conditions, the call would go out to the humans. The Deathworlders, who were terrifying, resilient, and absolutely necessary. Captain Chen received the news, while the Quantum Harmony was underway to their next research assignment. She gathered her crew in the common room and shared the announcement. "So we're officially scary rescue specialists now?" Torres said with a grin. "I can live with that. It's better than being avoided at every port," Kumar added. Park raised his coffee cup. "To being terrifying heroes. To doing what's right, even when it's hard," Chen countered. "That's what we did for the Valerians, and that's what we'll keep doing." They clinked their cups together. This crew of Deathworlders who had learned that their greatest strengths could be gifts to others. Even when those gifts came wrapped in fear, and somewhere on this Sil Prime, Zixthal looked up at the stars and thought about the humans. Yes, they were terrifying. But when they arrived to save you, when they charged through impossible conditions and refused to give up, they were absolutely, perfectly what you needed. She smiled and added a final note to her official report. Humans are terrifying, incomprehensible, and when they arrive to save you, absolutely what you need.